When people bring up the best Undertale fan games ever made, they usually bring up Undertale or Horrortale, and especially Bad Monday Simulator. And there are actually a lot of Undertale fan games out there, if you count the games that got cancelled as games, which makes sense considering the game's success and its remaining relevancy over the years. Because fan projects and of course Deltarune, the fan base has become very dedicated. However, I think that people have been too caught up in waiting for content for Deltarune that this constant talk about the same things has made the fan base longing for something to get their slimy hands on. Luckily, there are a lot of big YouTubers that cover fan creations quite often, so new projects don't get swept under the rug. But even so, fan games of Undertale feel quite underrated anyways. Now, I'm not saying that the game I will be talking about today is super hidden or niche. It's actually a game that's been known in the fan for quite a while now, but I do think that this fan game has managed to capture the magic of Undertale so well that it deserves to get a bit more attention. Because Undertale is so insanely massive, I feel like fan creations deserve to get a bit more attention in general anyways. What game are you talking about, Pickle Blame? Well, you might have recently seen it on your feed. I'm of course talking about Undertale Yellow, a game where you play as one of the previous fallen humans. Its first demo was released on November 30th, 2016, and the complete game released on December 9th, 2023. And the demo actually got a lot of support and even got greenlit by the man Toby Fox himself. So now with the game being out and playing through the roots really quickly because I have nothing better to do with my life, I'm gonna rant about it. If you do end up liking this video, why not subscribe? It helps motivate me to make more videos and it means a lot to me. Thank you. Also, spoiler warning. First, let's talk quickly about the development time of Yellow. The start of development back in February of 2016 actually didn't get a lot of attention, but gained more traction after the release of the official game trailer. The game's official Twitter account has since been used as the platform for sharing new information. The team announced on January 2022 that they were going to release it in winter that year. However, on March 5th, 2023, a delay was disclosed to an expanded endgame ambition, saying that they didn't want to rush their game. Then, on September 27th, the game was declared officially finished, and of course the game came out on December 9th. Many people are just happy that the game actually came out considering it's been in development for so long. Now that the boring stuff is out of the way, let's talk about the game itself, shall we? So the very first thing I noticed with this game were the visuals. They're actually very similar to Undertale. Makes sense, because you know it's literally a fan game. But the similarity is actually a good thing. Several other fan games have tried to make the graphics appear more prettier and more of HD quality. What the? But honestly, Undertale's visual style is supposed to look homemade. Sure, Undertale has some moments where Tammy was really able to shine, but most of the time it stays quite simple, sometimes too much. Yeah, remember when those people were hating on Frisk's sprite? But Yellow has managed to stay quite close to Undertale's vision itself. It did feature some amazing animations every once in a while though, making me want to eat my computer screen. And also the sequences of the Mega Flowey fight looked absolutely incredible. The team actually did an amazing job and they knew what they were doing. They managed to make the air risk that the player base already knows into something new and refreshing without really making it feel too different from the base game. Talking about it being refreshing, oh my god, they did such a good job doing that. So the main game's plot is the same with that of Undertale's, of course. You know, with the war between humans and monsters. However, this time you follow the journey of the cowboy kid, making this game a prequel of some sorts. The way that the developers thought about this is really smart though. If you're a fan of Undertale, you know that each human soul that Asgore had a different personality / power thing. For Frisk it was determination, and each color meant something different. We play as someone who was Justice. We know that Yellow Kid and Undertale had a cowboy hat and a gun based on the Omega Flowey fight. When Frisk called for help in that fight, the Yellow Soul's gun ends up shooting 4-leaf clovers as healing attacks instead of bullets. This is where we get our protagonist's name. You know, they're called Clover. So the developers had an opportunity to take the player base through the same game again, but this time at a different time period. They took something that was already well known but still shrouded in mystery and made it a full game, which I think is genius. Every so often, Undertale Yellow shows you some items you have end up in Undertale itself, like the cowboy hat and the gun ends up in the dump, where Caddy and Brady find it and sell it to Frisk later on in Undertale. In Yellow, the game makes references to Undertale every once in a while, like mentioned in Asgore and Alphys mostly, but the game itself wasn't lazy enough to actually just make you go through the entire Undertale game itself, don't you worry. The developers had an allergy for making you go through the same rooms as Undertale. It could have been an easy way out to just plop you into the already existing map and just make Sans a little bit younger, but they didn't do that. Sans doesn't even appear in the game. They somehow made the environment so similar to Undertale, but made an entirely new and refreshing story with it. You meet new characters that do not feel out of place or anything. And I love them. Like, yes, give me a bird lady who's totally not super secretly overpowered late game, and yes, give me a fox lady who is also totally not super secretly overpowered late game. Yellow deals with the character development quite alright, with the characters reflecting on their action, and it doesn't feel super forced or annoying. There were some times, however, especially the ending, where I felt like it went a little bit too quickly quickly, like going from wanting to follow your dead husband's plan and accidentally killing your child, to then almost killing another child, before suddenly coming to the realization that, ah shit guys, maybe this isn't smart. But other than that, I enjoyed the time I spent with the NPCs, and the fact that the developers did this just shows how talented they are. Of course Flowey returns in this game, but even here he acts different towards you, which is for a reason I will get into later. Don't you worry sweet child, Lord Talk is coming soon. Not only did they just make a different area of Snowdin, they also just went ahead and added literally original areas. They made a cool robot area when they introduced Metaton, but not really Metaton, and also literally fucking the Wild West. The new areas they added do not feel out of place whatsoever. Like, I don't think I would be surprised if Toby just makes these canon. I guess the only critique you can make is how Undertale kind of builds on a narrative of the underground being very small, which makes the monsters down there feel more trapped. Undertale Yellow kind of throws that out of the window and adds huge areas, but it's not that big of a deal for me anyways. Moving on, the gameplay is of course again very similar to Undertale itself. However, I do have to mention that it is more difficult. Remember how I said that I played through all the routes? Yeah, sorry, I lied. I actually did the pacifist route and tried the genocide route, but got stuck because the bosses are too damn hard. So then I watched some playthroughs. You can't stop me. The game never feels like it's unfair though. Some parts were very difficult at times. Like, don't you hate it when you're hiking and El Balador comes out of the abyss and makes you play Guitar Hero? And also a chase scene with the robo bitch that took me like more tries than I'd like to admit. Luckily the game has this feature where you can skip the dialogue when you die and immediately get back into the boss battle, which saved me a lot of time. This feature is nice when you used to play Hollow Knight where you have to travel a few million miles to get back to a boss. I do feel like some of the battles or just sequences like the chase thing in general could have been a tiny bit more balanced. I do have to wonder who playtested those. Tense? Of course, this does not mean the gameplay is bad. It's awesome and I had a lot of fun, especially with the challenging final pacifist boss. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit more about the story/lore of this game. Let's just say it's way better than expected. It stands on its own as just a good story. So when you meet Flowey, you realize he's a lot nicer to Clover than he was to Frisk. Little unfair you might think, but this time Flowey has a lot more power compared to what he had in Undertale. This is of course because Frisk's determination overrode Flowey's, but here in Undertale Yellow, Flowey has all of the power. His main goal is of course to get you to Asgore, reminding you several times while saving to just get over it, ignore your friends and get to the damn castle. Flowey tells Clover it's because he wants to save them, but let's be real here. Flowey, of course, he just wants the human souls. During the final boss of the neutral run, Flowey reveals to us that he watched Clover die over and over again. Flowey admits that he hates Clover and only kept reviving them so he could gain satisfaction from watching them suffer over and over again. He had to constantly sway Clover's path because they either died or just stayed with Thoriel. This part of the story is implanted incredibly well in the game, because you just don't find this out when you play pacifist or genocide, and I just honestly thought Flowey was here to help us. I thought this was just a version of Flowey before he became corrupted, which is what most people thought as well when we only had the demo, but we just completely forgot that he is and forever will be soulless. That's his whole character. Even therapy won't help this little guy. Other characters also have compelling backstories, like Starlo secretly being a farmer but ending up being a sheriff, and Martlet who is new to the Royal Guard and was already unsure of her job because of her friend warning her of humans. These two are interesting characters, but I also want to talk more in depth about Soroba, also known as Mega OP Fox Lady, who during my pacifist playthrough I called useless because she just mostly stood in the corner watching a little kid do all of the tasks for her, but she ultimately ended up being revealed as a mother who wants to protect the legacy of her husband who passed away. She and her husbands are monsters who actually question King Asgore, which isn't something that happens a lot in Undertale. After her husband passes away, she tries to complete his work and finally tests it on her child, Kaneko, which results in her passing. The only thing needed to complete the work is a boss soul and a human soul. So when she meets Clover, her only goal was to get our soul. She was tricking us all along, and when I played this game, I thought that Asgore would be the final boss. I mean, he was hyped up so much, but when you think twice about this game, then you know that it likes to keep its distance from the original Undertale storyline. So I was hyped to have Soroba as the final boss. Also, something interesting is that the boss battle theme for Soroba is called A Mother's Love, which could be a reference to the level of violence love she is willing to have to protect her memories and her husband's work. Man, I want to make a video analyzing her character deeper, which I might do in the future of this video as well. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it has the story points related to Undertale's original storyline, like we get to see Flowey in his prime form experimenting on Clover, and also story points that take us for unexpected unexpected turns as well. So as I wrap up this video, I'd like to remind everyone to just keep supporting fan creators and its developers in general, because if we do, then we just end up with peak like this. It's not a small game either, it's like a full-length game as well, and there are still secrets being discovered as of the writing of the script. Like, this game even has fun level events like Undertale did. The game is just a super amazing experience all the way through. Like, it deserves stuff like merch for sure. I wanna buy a Soroba plushie. For what it's worth, it's my favorite Undertale fan game of all time. And if you're still watching this, you should download it now, and also why not subscribe? Again, I might make some analysis videos on this game's character in the future, so if you subscribe and maybe even join my super cool Discord server, you won't miss those. Thank you for the support and see you next time.